I am Lion Jody Burmester. I am part of the Lions virtual team, and I'm excited to be here with you all today as your MC for the event. This is the third of 9 courses that Vice President AP and PID Sangeeta have committed to create a servant leadership certification. Servant leadership is so important to volunteer leaders and to Lions as we move forward in trying to reach out to new markets, new audiences, and new generations. VP, AP, and PID Sangeeta are the hosts of this and the sponsors of this event. And they really spend the time to pull this together and do some research and figure out who to bring in to talk to you all today. Unfortunately, VP, AP, and PID Sangeeta are on the road today. So we did have to record their comments, and we'll be sharing those with you through a series of interviews they did, not only between the two of them, but with Vice President Patty Hill and past International President Barry Palmer, sharing some thoughts. And what amazing leaders we have, by the way. Just take a step back and think about this as you're listening to them and hearing what they have to say. So with that, I am going to share with you the comments and everything from PID Sangeeta starting us off. If you have any questions, comments, whatever, again, please drop those in the chat as you will remain muted until the breakout rooms when you get a chance to share with each other and your thoughts on this questions at hand. So with that, here we go. Enjoy the show.
Thank you, Jody and Daniel, for putting this series together. Dear Lions, welcome to the third session of the series, the last for this Lionstic year. Organization above self is a phrase that emphasizes the importance of prioritizing the interests and well-being of the group or organization as a whole over one's own personal interests or goals. This concept is closely related to servant leadership, which is a leadership philosophy that emphasizes serving others, empowering them, and helping them to grow and develop. In servant leadership, the leader's primary focus is on meeting the needs of the team or organization they are leading, rather than on advancing their own personal interests or agenda. This requires a selfless approach to leadership, where the leader prioritizes the well-being of the team and the organization as a whole, and makes decisions based on what is best for the group rather than for themselves. At the heart of both organization above self and servant leadership is the belief that the success of the group or organization is more important than the success of any individual. Both concepts emphasize the importance of collaboration, teamwork, and putting the needs of others before one's own. By embracing these principles, leaders can build strong, effective teams that are able to work together towards a common goal and achieve great success together. Today's discussion on servant leadership with Vice President AP Singh features a conversation with International First Vice President Dr. Patty Hill and that with past International President Barry Palmer. Vice Presidents AP and Patty, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Vice President Patti, for your time. We are so obliged to you for sparing these few minutes for this event. You have always been talking about leadership through service, and you have been equally vocal about global understanding and peace. If these are to become a reality, it is important to accept that the world is so diverse, and we need to respect diversity. If that is to happen, it must start within one's own mind. Diversity of thought must be accepted first. What would you say about this?
I'm very happy to join you today and to dive a bit deeper into this topic of servant leadership. I was thinking about how each of us can grow as a servant leader and what that might mean for us. So one of the things I would encourage you and myself as well to do is to make it a priority to encourage diversity in thought. A leader does not bring their team together to tell them something they've already decided. Everyone's ideas need to be valid, to be heard, to be part of how we formulate our way forward. I have learned, sometimes the hard way, that others bring unique ideas I hadn't even considered, and they're great ideas. We need that diversity in thought. We also need the diversity in criticism. Others will see potential pitfalls or threats to our success for our projects, our service, or our growth. And we need to have all of those ideas in our discussions. And as a servant leader, you can create that time and that space to hear everyone's ideas, their thoughts, and their questions, to validate that those should be part of our discussion, and then to find our way forward using the best ideas and building the best outcomes.
Vice President Patti, as we work as volunteers in our organization, individuals that come from different communities, different ethnic backgrounds, different countries, and even if they come from the same district, each individual is so different. It's extremely important to build an environment, rather an environment of trust. If that trust is there, we can definitely perform and deliver much better. What would be your message in this respect?
As servant leaders, when we work in teams to achieve our goals, one of the things I've found very important is creating a culture of trust. So often I've been part of a team where my ideas have not been welcomed, where I felt shut down. And so it's important for us as leaders to think about how the others on our team feel and to create a culture of trust. How do we do that? Well, we need to respect others' ideas. None of us continue forward if our ideas are criticized or negated the minute we present them. We want to be heard. So we have to create trust that our ideas will be heard. And then secondly, trust in our actions as leaders. If we say that we're going to take an action, we need to follow through. If we say we're going to delegate certain responsibilities to others, then we need to do that. We need to back away, support them, and let them grow as they serve. So creating a culture of trust that both our actions and our words can be relied upon is so important to fostering true teamwork and that spirit of servant leadership.
When we talk about servant leadership, one of the important criteria is that we should be unselfish. It's the care and concern for others that takes priority. Working with an unselfish mindset kind of becomes a mandatory requirement for servant leadership. It's easier said than done. What is your message of building that mindset of unselfish service, at the same time an accommodative nature, so that we could work collaboratively?
If you've done any research on servant leadership or how to work with teams, and particularly teams of volunteers, one of the most important pointers that you'll find, no matter which books you're reading or what lectures you're reviewing or which TED Talks you've previewed, is the concept of having an unselfish mindset. Now, what does that mean for you and what does it mean for me? It reminds me of the Harry Truman quote, which you may have heard before. And that is, it is amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit. And so we don't need to be selfish about, was it my idea or was it my project or is it my legacy? What we're doing is creating an environment, a society, a group, a team where everyone shares in the credit. Everybody shares in the challenges and the successes. And we don't need to have a selfish mindset, a me-oriented mindset. when we are bringing out the best in others and giving them the chance to excel.
Vice President Patti, we have often said that in our organization, leadership strength is not measured by how many followers one has. It is measured by how many leaders one creates. And so, in the same spirit, when we talk of servant leadership, it is equally important that an individual in a position of authority, in a position of influence, must be able to create, or rather foster, an environment where more such leaders are created, where more opportunities are thrown out to others. It's a question of handing over of the baton, not only from year to year, but gradually, even from generation to generation, handing over the legacy of service of our organization. What is your message in this respect to the lions of the world?
I often speak about the importance of creating a space and a time for others to excel, creating opportunities for others to take the lead, to test their leadership skills and to develop as leaders. But how do we do that in reality? First, we need to be really observant. We need to observe those who might be reluctant to step forward or those who are already exhibiting natural leadership tendencies. Both types of people can be encouraged and fostered to grow in their leadership. Sometimes that begins just with a conversation, just with saying to a person, I noticed your good work here. I think you could take the lead on this. They may never have thought of themselves as a leader, but you've planted the seed. Conversely, they may think of themselves as a leader and appreciate being recognized and given the next opportunities to take the lead on other projects or service activities. So, fostering leadership in others is truly one of the priorities for anyone engaged in servant leadership. It is no longer about your own leadership progression. It is about fostering the leaders of the future. As a leader, I ask you as leaders to look around you and find our future leaders. Create a time and a space and the support for them to excel. That is servant leadership. And that is how we begin to make change in our world. We're changing their lives by offering them new opportunities. And then we're changing the opportunities for our association by creating more leaders to take on more service and more activities, more membership opportunities. That's how we change the world. We do it one life, one community at a time.
Thank you, Vice Presidents Patti and AP. Vice President Singh, as we continue our conversation on servant leadership, we often hear that we are volunteers and we can only devote so much time to the organization. How should a Lion leader handle this situation?
Thank you for that question. Well, that's such a question that we are all faced with it at some point of time or not. No matter what positions that we may be serving at, but we all get faced with this question. And it's extremely important to be able to balance between family, work, social commitments, time for friends, and everything else that makes up our life. We should never, I believe, and never try to ever impress upon any line leader that this is the only priority. It will never be the only priority. It cannot be the only priority. We need to respect that everybody would need time for one's family, for one's work, and some time for oneself. There would be demands out of health reasons for oneself, between friends and family, and all of that has got to be adjusted. The only issue is that before an individual takes up a particular role, an assignment, or an engagement in our organization, that individual must be more or less clear about the time commitment, about what kind of commitment is really required, about what kind of time allocation is required. And then, having understood that, that individual must always speak to one's family, maybe even one's colleagues at where one's working, to be able to get their support that they would be standing by his or her side should there be any such situations where they need to support that particular individual. If one has done that, then it's absolutely fine. And as one is discharging a particular role or is serving in a particular office, there could always be emergencies and exigencies. There could always be some unforeseen reasons and circumstances, and all of that would have to be attended to. But the fact is that if one has spoken to one's family, taken one's family into confidence, taken wherever one's working, taken one's colleagues into confidence there too, then one would be in a much stronger position to be able to deal with these challenges. These challenges are a part and parcel of life. Prioritizing is extremely important. How one prioritizes, one has to do it by understanding that one's got to always be addressing what is important. Never allow things to become important and urgent. Things which are important and urgent, then they've almost fall into the category of firefighting circumstances. We don't want to be, often be confronted with those situations. Deal with things which are important, deal with them appropriately, deal with them on time. And as regarding balancing, that's extremely important. One needs to understand one will have to be always taking care of one's family, one's work, balancing a few other things, and one's got to do it with an open mind. So the basic thing is, before you get into an office in this organization or accept a responsibility, be very clear about what time commitment it entails.
We are all human beings, and our own aspirations sometimes may cloud our judgment as regards the growth of the organization. How do we ensure that the organizational priorities stand before our personal priorities?
We are just an organization of common mortals. Nobody amongst us is a saint. Nobody amongst us is that higher individual. And as common mortals, we often look for personal aspirations. There are some personal reasons and accomplishment that one looks up to. But what is most important is to realize that the kind of respect that we get from the community, maybe from the civic leaders, maybe even from the political leaders in one's own state, in one's own country, for what we are doing as Lions or occupying a particular position in Lions, one needs to always keep it at the back of one's mind. It's not because of what we are doing individually. It's because of what has been done over thousands of hours by thousands of Lions for many years. It's because of that legacy of service which has been created that we are simply reaping that harvest. Since we are in that position, we are being recognized. So that recognition basically is not a personal recognition. If one can keep that in one's mind and understand and accept whatever comes to us with humility, and always understand that it's the organization first. It's the name of the organization that has to be projected first. It's nothing about me. It's all about we. It's all about this organization. This organization is so wonderful. It is giving us these opportunities. It is giving us these exposures. It is giving us this acceptability in our communities as good citizens. Then everything will just be fine. We will definitely, as individuals, enjoy that exposure that comes. That's fine. But enjoy it with total humility, a clear understanding that it's being given to us not only because of what we have done individually. It's because what the Lions in that community, in that state, in that country have been doing for many, many years. That is important.
Thank you, Vice President Singh. What are some practical ways that servant leaders can empower their teams and foster a culture of collaboration and trust?
We must always be able to foster that environment of that culture of understanding, of better bonding, of collaborative working. And for that, the most important thing that we need is frank, open, candid discussions. An environment where everybody feels safe and secure, where everybody is assured that individual would never be ridiculed, where everybody is assured that for whatever one says, one would be respected. One would be recognized and respected for one's own views. Those views may or may not be accepted. Well, that's fine. But everybody's perspective, everybody's viewpoints count. Each person's contributions must be put up on the chart, on paper, on the drawing board. And then when we take decisions, by involving everybody, by considering all the options that have been brought forward, the various viewpoints that have been brought forward, we would be developing what is called the ownership of decisions. It is very important to develop this ownership, because if that happens, then when we work towards the implementation of those decisions, everybody would be fully participative. And as I said, it's all about developing a culture where everybody feels safe, secure, and encouraged to share one's views. Sometimes those views may even be contrarian views, but then even contrarian views need to be accepted as a viewpoint and then be discussed openly. And then once we decide with all those issues, have all those viewpoints that have been taken into consideration, we would have a much stronger team working towards the implementation of the decisions.
For the last question now, how can servant leadership contribute to creating a more diverse and inclusive culture? And what steps can leaders take to promote these values?
Diversity is our DNA. Diversity is the strength of our organization. We exist in 200 countries and geographical areas. We are an organization that are composed of people who come from so many different ethnic backgrounds, different cultures, different colors, different castes, different creeds, different religions, different ages, different genders. And so naturally, there would be differences in the way we look at things. Sometimes our ground realities would be so different. Our entire perspectives would actually be dictated by our ground realities and our personal exposures. And all of this needs to be understood. And once we understand this, and once it's clear to us that in this world, there is just not one way of doing things. There are multiple and many, many, many ways of doing things. It's only that we can't do things in many, many ways. So we take a particular pathway. But even in that pathway, there could be so many different, deviations here and there according to the ground realities. We need to understand this is an organization of volunteers. Diversity is written so much across our organization. We have so many languages that we have acknowledged to be the official languages. We are an organization for men, women, and people of different orientations, of people of different age. We need to encourage youth. Our working needs to be more youth-friendly. And we are an organization basically where any human being who wishes to work for community good and make this world a slightly better place than what it has been before is most welcome. It's every such person's organization. If we can create that, that's the responsibility of the leadership, then we will have a stronger Lions Clubs International.
Thank you, Vice President AP. And now let us hear the conversation you had with past International President Barry Palmer while you were in Australia.
Thank you, Past President Barry, for joining us for this online event where we are speaking on servant leadership. When you were president, you gave the very important message to the lions of the world: follow your tree. And that really appealed to the mind of the lions. So how does this message of follow your tree, in your opinion, relate to servant leadership?
Vice President, servant leadership and follow your dream, to me, went hand in hand. If you look at what is servant leadership, it's about, I guess, serving your team and making sure your team is achieving their goals, their ambitions, and what they want to do. And a servant leader is one that helps them do that. So your theory is you bring them with you rather than pushing them out there. The follow your dream was exactly that. It was their dream. What was their dream? It didn't matter whether you were, a street sweeper or a multi-millionaire. You still had dreams. And for all of those people, my goal was to let them achieve their dream, not mine. But in doing so, I would probably achieve mine. But my goal was, or my dream was not the governing factor. It was the factor of the Lions. What were their dreams and what did they want to achieve rather than mine?
What really prompted you at that point of time when you were thinking of an international president's theme that you selected, follow your dream? What prompted you to select this phrase?
It was a piece of music, actually. A song performed by a group in Australia called the Seekers, who were well known, particularly in England and Australia, for their type of music. And they had a song called Keep the Dream in Your Pocket, Keep the Dream in Your Heart. They had phrases like, don't listen to those that say it can't be done, because they will build walls where there were never walls before. So all the words of that song sort of fitted in with the dream, and people trying to achieve their dreams were going to be running up against obstacles. So I thought, well, this is what I'm thinking about.
When any individual gets into a position of office in our organization, that individual always starts to look at the current challenges or the opportunities from one's own perspective. But then servant leadership would demand that we always look at it from the other side, from the perspective of our stakeholders, so to say. Is it easy, or how does it happen? Or what's your advice to all our line leaders who are serving in various positions?
I would say it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But to reach your potential, to reach your goal on what you want to achieve, then you have got to put yourself out there. Let it be known that this is what you want. There'll be obstacles, there'll be challenges, but you have to keep focused on exactly what it is you want. And what am I doing today that's going to help me achieve that? Rather than just letting it all happen. It's not going to happen if you do that. So you have to have a mindset that is going to focus on your dream or your goal and what's going to get you there.
We just were made aware very recently that the multiple district in Australia has adopted or voluntarily adopted a target of growing the membership in MD201 Australia by 2030 to 30,000 and by 2050 to 50,000. So what prompted this goal and openly announce it to the whole world that this is what they're going to work towards?
We've always had, I guess, programs that were never really owned by the Lions. And this way, I think putting it out there, and as you've said, putting their name on it, is the challenge now for them to deliver. I think there's still some work to be done on it. I think there's probably a lot of work to be done on it, but we have the goal, we have the dream, this is what we want to achieve. They're now working on the steps to get there, and I think we've got to break it down to, even down to monthly. What is my district, what has my multiple district done this month to reach that goal? And if they're falling behind, then they have to take evasive action. Maybe they need to re-look at, refocus on what they're doing. If it's not working, don't persevere with it. Let's change. Be game enough to change your direction. Admit it's not working and go and find the new challenge on how we're going to achieve it. But keeping the 2030, 2050 as the focus, always.
Thank you. And just the last question. We find that in our organization there's an hierarchy, there's a protocol, and in some parts of the world that protocol is more followed than in the others. So when we talk of servant leadership and an individual in a high position actually working with the concept of servant leadership, do you think that this whole concept of hierarchy and protocol contradicts with that?
Yes, I think it does. I think we've got to be more flexible once again. What is important to the Lions? Who is going to do the work? It's the Lions, not the hierarchy. The hierarchy's been there, reached the level. Now they have to understand that the Lions coming through want to do the same thing. and they have to be strong enough to allow that to happen. Not afraid, but be positive about it. And I think a lot of leaders fear of others taking over, and that stops them allowing the other ones to come through. So I think they've got to step back, have a look, and then mentor the newer, younger Lions to achieve their dreams.
Thank you.
Thank you for those perspectives. Jody and Daniel, can we now proceed for the breakaway room discussions? Please participate, as your feedback and discussions give us the fodder as we take this conversation forward. Over to Jody and Daniel. Thank you, Jody and Daniel, for putting this series together. Dear Lions, welcome to
Good afternoon again, everyone, or morning, depending on where you're coming in from. I am going to hand this over to one of our other team members, Kim Stewart, to send you to breakout rooms. Before we send you there, though, I do want to just highlight there were so many amazing ideas presented by PID Sangeeta, VPAP, titles, Vice President Patti, and Past International President Barry Palmer. It was really an amazing list of items that were being shared. I'm just going to highlight a couple things. Creating a culture of trust, so very important to make people feel valued and allow them to come up and really achieve their full potential. Then taking ownership and getting shared ownership, so every member of the team feels that they own what's going on and they feel responsible for the success of the club and the organization. Diversity, we talk diversity on a regular basis. Diversity is so key to everything we do as Lions. And then what past President Barry Palmer was saying about our jobs as servant leaders is to help others achieve their dreams, help them realize their full potential as Lions. Just so many great pieces. So with that, Kim Stewart, who is kind enough every time to help us organize getting moderators for these sessions, you are up, my friend.
Well, thank you, Jody. And you made so many very important comments. It's very important for us to mentor new leaders as they come through. In just a minute, we will send you all into breakout rooms for a 20-minute discussion. When it's your turn, please share your name, where you're from, along with your thoughts on servant leaders. Empower their followers to take ownership and responsibility for their work and contribute to the organization's success. Does this work in your Lions Club? If not, how can we foster this in our clubs? So when the moderators get into the breakout rooms, please remember to take a photo to share later to social media. As well, please take some notes because we're going to be calling on a few of you when you come back into the main session to share what happened in your breakout rooms. So Jody, send them off. So excited to hear what has happened in your breakout rooms. So we're going to call on a few breakout hosts. We're going to call upon Jamie Jones, Vukasin, and Conrad. So those Lions that weren't in those particular breakout rooms, we still want to hear from you. So if you could drop your comments in the chat box, so we can have all of your fabulous ideas shared with us today. So I'd like to start with Jamie Jones. Jamie, could you share what happened in your breakout room?
Well, thank you, Lion Kim. We had a few people drop in and drop out, had some technical issues, so we didn't have a lot of participants, but some spoke about how it is working in their clubs. They are embracing, cumulative ideas from other members. We realize that it's important to include everybody in our discussions, in our service projects, and their ideas. The moment we stop doing that is the moment they stop being part of our clubs. Some have suggested that there's been some issues in their clubs with hierarchy and the ability to move up in leadership. And that is something I'm sure we've all come across from time to time. You get different cliques that kind of dictate the path of the club, and that we're trying to get away from that. We want to be all inclusive. We want everybody to have an equal opportunity, but unfortunately that still exists in our environment. Discussions were had about avoiding that by getting into club branches, also by fostering an idea of greater leadership or through Lions Learning Center, institutes to educate yourself and connect with other Lions outside your club. The bottom line is diversity is really important. VP Patti talked about how to encourage diversity in thought and also in criticism. We don't all think alike. We need to have all these ideas cumulatively brought to the table so we can be the best Lions Club we can be.
Past District Governor Jamie, thank you for capturing everything that was happening in your room. Those are fabulous ideas, and thank you again. So now we're going to go to Serbia. Vakasan, can you unmute and share what happened in your room?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to speak to all these amazing people in our breakout room. Basically, I have a feeling that we didn't have enough time to share all the experiences and all the ideas, but eventually everything comes to being a proper leader. And we actually talked. There was people from many different countries, from Sri Lanka, from India, obviously from Serbia, France, Canada. And we all agreed upon one thing, that the most important thing when being a part of a team is communication. And with all the diversity, true leaders have to understand the needs of each and every team member and try to communicate in the best way that everyone feels appreciated and that everyone's ideas are being heard and acknowledged. Obviously, not all of them are going to be accepted, but it will be heard, and maybe in some future projects, they will be, the ideas will come to realization. Besides from that, we spoke about guidance, solutions, goals, motivation, plans, visions, directions. So we tried to cover everything, and it was amazing.
Thank you so much. And you're so right. The lines in your room, the importance of being heard, you know, whether we follow through with those ideas or not, just being heard can really make a big difference in Lions feeling appreciated. Thank you again, Vakasan.
Thank you so much.
Conrad.
Thank you very much, Lantia. Good morning, good evening, everyone. Our group is very diverse. Some members from Bulgaria, Guyana, United States of America, Canada, and India. So you can imagine we had a very diverse ideas. However, common among the our members in our group was the need to serve. One member said services are her business, and she's always enthused and encouraged in serving. And that is very common among all Lions. And I mentioned that when I'm among fellow Lions, I'm always encouraged because we have that one thing in common, that is service. And we moved on to what it means to be a Lion. What is it that we do when we serve? What is it means to us as a servant leader? And different ideas were shared. Service is we should, when we serve, we should serve by example. We should be proud of what we do. It is often said that Lionism or Lions is the world's best kept secret, and we feel that should not be anymore. So many great things we do as Lions. We do eyeglass distribution, eye screening, testing for diabetes, and so forth. These are all important things that are so important to folks in our community. So we feel that we should not keep this a secret. We should be proud of what we do as Lions. We also had the idea that as Lions, it should not be about us. service or serving in our clubs, it should be about helping others. The focus shouldn't be on who is the leader. In fact, what it was determined is that whoever is leading should be proud to make others better. The focus should not be on the person who is the president or is the district governor. Rather, the district governor should be focusing on the lines to serve, to make everybody look better. So generally, it was a very lively discussion, and we're very thankful for this forum. Thank you very much, Lion Kim.
Conrad, thank you for sharing what happened in your room. And you're so right. You know, it's important that all Lions, you know, are uplifted through service, and titles don't matter, whether you're a district governor or a club president. You know, it's really about our service. And thank you for that great discussion. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Back to you, Jody.
Great job, everyone. It sounds like some great discussions were going on in your breakout rooms about how we truly as servant leaders are able to empower others and build trust and really understand the challenges we face and then work through to help people overcome and reach their full potential. So great work, everyone. We're coming to the end of our session. So how do you get your certificate of participation? You either have to participated in today's session on Responsibility Live, or in a few days when it gets out on our YouTube channel, watch the recording that comes into that we post. And once you've done that, you can go in and complete the reflection questions that are found at that link. This link is in the chat window. You click on that link and it takes you to an area, a Google form that allows you to share your thoughts on responsibility. Once you hit submit for your thoughts on that reflection, you're going to get an email. And in that email is a link to be able to download your certificate of participation. This is the same process we've used for each of the sessions, and will be the same if this is your first session, or if you missed either session 1 or session 2, here you go. If you missed session 2, you can go ahead and the viewing of the video link is there, and this session was on humility. And then also there's a QR code there if you'd just like to snap a photo of it to be able to get to the reflection, or again, those links are in the chat window. And then last but not least, the first session we did was back last November, and it was really focused on the overall concept of servant leadership and explaining what servant leadership is. It's the same process again to get your certificate. You watch the video, or having participated live, you complete the reflection questions, submit them, and then you're able to get that downloadable link for you to be able to share that, or to be able to download your own certificate of participation. With that, I'm just going to leave you with a couple of thoughts. We heard so many amazing things today, not only from our Lion leaders, but from each of you and what you shared in those breakout rooms. And a couple of things really stuck with me. And it really comes down to the Harry Truman quote, "It's amazing what we can accomplish when you don't care who gets the credit."